I'm Kurt Susi. I'm the program head of the Mechanical Engineering Technology program at Saskatchewan Polytechnic, and I'm also an instructor in the program. So, for students coming into Mechanical Engineering Technology, the formal entry requirements are a 65% in the pre-calc 30 course and 70% in the Physics 30 high school course. So the Mechanical Engineering Technology, or MET program at Saskatchewan Polytechnic, is a 2-year diploma program. The 2 years are structured over 6 semesters, 3 semesters per year, comprising of fall, winter, and spring terms or semesters. The fall and winter semesters are generally more classroom and laboratory-based coursework, with the spring terms having a higher focus on practical projects or practical lab activities. And students would generally have a 2-month break between the semesters. Core subject area or core focus within the MET program is split into 3 primary areas. We have mechanical design, which is what you may think of mostly when you think of mechanical engineering. So we're talking about structures, machines, mechanics, selection of materials, failure analysis, even manufacturing, 3D printing, design, analysis comes into that as well. In the program, we have a focus on energy systems. So look at the world around you, the light in your home, the heating systems, your vehicle that you drive, those are all energy-based systems. Conversion of energy from one form to another, that is another focus of mechanical engineering technology. So future roles or that focus would relate to, again, power generation, building thermal design, heating, ventilation, cooling systems. And a third pillar or supporting role in the program is instrumentation and controls, which comprises electronics, sensors, control mechanisms to monitor and report how the before mentioned systems would operate, whether it's mechanical or an energy-based system. Generally, the technology programs at Saskatchewan Polytechnic have courses which are custom or specific to those programs themselves. That said, so there may be limited direct transferability between, say, the Mechanical Engineering Technology program and the Electronic Systems and Engineering Technology programs. But there are affiliate programs. The DMET program, for example, which is a specialization of mechanical engineering technology, has a certain number of courses which are identical or similar to those in MET. In first semester, that would be a higher number, and then that number simply diminishes over time as the programs get more specialized. That said, MET students have transferred to other programs. So for example, power engineering or ESET or instrumentation controls, and the learning that they undertook in MET provides a very strong foundation for success in those programs. For example, in power engineering, large focus is on industrial systems, thermodynamics, energy systems, which again, students can build from their core education MET to be more successful in that program. Going into instrumentation and controls, again, because that's a core focus of MET, our students can build upon that learning and again, take that to be more successful in subsequent programs. As well, students often find that they want to continue their education and pursue an engineering degree. So we offer a 2-year diploma, which gets you into industry a little more rapidly than through a university degree. But if you find that you want to continue education, we do have partnerships with institutions across Canada that allow you to take your 2-year degree or 2-year diploma at Saskatchewan Polytechnic, leverage that into credit, so 2 years of credit in an engineering program. So with an additional 2 to 2.5 years, maybe there's a slight bridging program that's required to fill any gaps, and obtain your engineering degree as well. And we have had a number of students over the past pursue that route and have been very successful. In Saskatchewan, a lot of industry or economic growth is tied to the resource industry. So that's exploitation and processing of resources. So we get potash, uranium, oil and gas. A lot of our students tend to find employment in those areas, either directly with those companies or companies that support them. So from a consultancy or a manufacturing perspective. A lot of our students also find roles in small design shops, manufacturing firms, where they may be the single or the primary engineering resource in that company. And we find that generally our employment rate is very high. So in the 80 to 90% range within a year of graduation. I think MET would be a good fit for you specifically if you're a curious person. If you like problem solving, if you take a lot of satisfaction with troubleshooting, and we're not talking about necessarily machines and taking apart something mechanical, but anything in the world around you. If you observe something, say, why does this work the way it is? Or what's going on there? If you're asking those kind of questions and you're seeking to either improve something or make something better, that is a good trait, or that's a desirable trait for an incoming student to MET, because those are the traits that we want to foster and leverage to a more focused technical approach to problem solving. What makes MET a good choice are fundamentally the opportunities that exist for you upon graduation. The fact that it's a 2-year diploma allows you to get out into industry sooner. Also, if you think about your career options, mechanical engineering is generally considered the most versatile field of engineering. We have bits of all the other engineering fields or disciplines encapsulated within engineering and engineering technology. And so you're not going to be constrained with working only in one area. Other programs may focus more on manufacturing or directly into electronics or, again, instrumentation control. So I mentioned those previously, and that's not to say those aren't good fields, but if you're educated in those programs, you may be more constrained working in those areas. And this is especially important if you consider that over the course of a typical career, you may have 4 or 5 or more different roles or work in very disparate or broadly different fields of engineering. Mechanical engineering gives you that base skill set to have a flavor of everything and then have the potential to move into all these, the large variety of opportunities that will exist or present themselves to you over the course of your career. So if you're in high school and you're thinking, well, what can I do to prepare myself more fully for entry into MET? Well, there are the previously mentioned entry requirements for physics and math. And so definitely taking a full load in physics and math and scoring well in those courses is important. I would also add chemistry is a good additional course, although it's not a formal requisite to entry into MET. Understanding that field of science is also beneficial. Even having a background in industrial mechanics from a shop environment can be helpful. So if you've got those opportunities in high school, that would be a good thing to explore as well. A typical day for a student in mechanical engineering technology is not that dissimilar to, say, a person going to work a full-time job, where the fact that we are in class from generally 8 to 3 or 4 o'clock daily, 5 days a week. Now, the days themselves differentiate. You may have 3 hours or of lectures in the morning and practical labs in the afternoon, so that can vary, but you're generally expected to be engaged for anywhere between 7 to 8 hours over the typical working day. And that would mean also, or indicate that in the evenings, there's some additional work or overtime, with 2 to potentially in heavier weeks as you're getting towards midterms or exams, 4 hours of additional homework for students. We find that it is a intense program in terms of the development that we're asking or undertaking with the student. And so there is not a lot of opportunity to have a part-time job, or even some students have tried and have been successful, but it's much more challenging to undertake a full course load when you're working part-time. So if you can focus on your studies primarily, that would be a best case scenario. That's not to say that if you're finding the workload challenging, we can adjust your workload and you just wouldn't have a completion over 2 years. We'd move to a 3-year completion schedule. And that's something that if students require that flexibility, we're happy to accommodate. My career journey, my career path is somewhat linear, maybe circuitous as well. I knew early on, when I say linear, I knew early on that I wanted to be an engineer. At least as soon as I learned that the description of what I wanted to design and build things was called engineering. So that happened around grade 4, grade 6 for me. Somewhere in that time frame, I was branded. I was going to be an engineer. And so it's a very simple or direct path for me. I was strong in physics and math in high school, so that helped. I went into the College of Engineering at the U of S, and I graduated with a degree, a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering. I worked in industry for about 6 years prior to coming to Saskatchewan Polytechnic. I held a variety of roles. I worked in heavy steel fab and fabrication, large manufacturers of pressure vessels and tanks. I worked for alternative energy companies and hydrogen production. I worked for a manufacturer of heating, ventilation, air conditioning equipment in an R&D role. So pretty broad experience set. But I was looking at where my role was in manufacturing for my most recent industry experience role. And I didn't want to go into the managerial, like that's where you may end up. You have a certain career trajectory. And I was thinking back, well, I came into engineering because I wanted to do engineering. I wanted to design. I love solving problems, perform calculations. And I thought, well, if I can't do that in my industry role, maybe I should find an educational opportunity to do that. And that's what brought me to Saskatchewan Polytechnic. And so I've been here as an instructor for the last 15 years. I had the opportunity to assume the program head role 2 years ago, and I took that on as an additional opportunity to help, guide the program and develop it for the next, generation of technologists coming through the institution. My advice for a student considering entry or application to mechanical engineering technology is to really understand the role of a technologist versus an engineer. So there's some research you can do there as well. A technologist tends to think more exist in more of the applied world, hands-on, but that's not to say there isn't analytical or academic rigor that's also applied. We've got the term engineering in the title of our program. So there is a strong engineering component in the program as well. Students may consider, because it's technology, the analytical depth might be a factor or two less than what they actually experience. So that's something I want you to be aware of. There is a lot of rigor to the program. We take a lot of similar courses to what students in an engineering college or university program would take. Simply, we don't have 4 years to educate you, we have 2. So we pick specialty area streams and make sure you're competent in those areas and able to support the roles that industry would ask you to support or be effective within. So that's really the best advice, is understand that this is still an engineering program. You're going to get out and you're going to be more practically applied in industry, but there is still quite a bit of that math and science in the background as well.